Here we go. Hey, I want to thank everybody for being on for today. Got a special guest. We got Austin today. And it's always exciting to have Austin on. He's a good man, great person. He's done a lot with the organization, including past president, as well as doing great work and getting prepared for this year's Tasco Clinic, which is going to be a brand new animal that nobody's dealt with before. But I can't think of anybody better to be working at it than the people we have on it. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. But today we got a good topic. Like I said, I've learned a lot from this man, and I know we all do the same. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Warren. I'm, you guys that have been around and know me, I'm kind of a strange animal because I'm more philosopher coach than just coach. So I think this presentation kind of ties into that, and that ties into who I am and what I do. And I had kind of a strange start at high school coaching. When I was in high school, I worked with the school board and petitioned them to start a program. And basically my junior and senior year of high school, I was coaching the high school team, even though we had a dad out there, and lining fields and turning on stadium lights and assigning referees and scheduling games. So this is, high school soccer is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I guess we'll see that as we go. All right, Warren, you're going to have to give it back to me. It's disabled screen sharing.
All right, should be good to go.
All right. All right, so the plan here is looking at building and maintaining a successful program over a long period of time. I've been, in 28 years, I've worked at 2 different high schools. One for 11 years, 9 of those I was coaching, and then the other one for the remainder, as long as they keep me around. So I'm not very transient. All right, if that makes sense. All right. The reason there's 39 varsity seasons there is 14 of those I've coached the boys and the girls. I did that for 13 years, and then was away from it when we went to 6A. The AD deemed it was impossible, and then we went back to 5A for a few years and got a new AD, and he came in and said, we're gonna put you back in charge of the girls. So I had the boys and the girls last year, and both teams won district, and the girls team was really solid heading into the playoffs, but we didn't have any playoffs. So it was exciting to get back working with both teams, but I wish we'd gotten to take it to its conclusion. All right, so here's the things that we're going to hit on, and I'll run through it all pretty quickly because I want us to have time at the end for questions and discussion, because I think that's where we really learn a lot from everything. All right. For me, I think as a coach, the most important thing you've got to figure out is why you're doing it. And this is a process that evolves constantly. I am not the coach that I am today that I was 20 years ago. And there's a lot of times that I wish I could go back 20 years ago and just kick the shit out of that guy. And I think, those of us that have been around for a long time feel that way. And I still wake up and think about mistakes that I made a long time back, and I just try to learn from them and keep going. But you got to develop a philosophy that matches who you are, or who you're trying to be, and who you want your kids to be, what you want them to do. High school soccer kids have got a 4-year developmental window that you can do a lot with them and help decide not just who they are as players, but who they are as people. And I think that I've grown from being a coach that wanted to make great players to a coach that wants to make great people who play soccer really well and love it. But again, my pathway is not the same as everybody else's, and you got to figure out what your pathway is and walk it, and be glad that you're walking it. Okay. One of the other things that we've all got to take into consideration, and I know that Warren and those of us that are old guys, is this used to be a 9-month thing. Okay, we cashed it in May, and we were done, and we came back in August, and you couldn't see the kids in the summer, and you couldn't talk to the kids in the summer, and now it's become a year-round deal. We don't get paid year-round, but we've got kids. We're doing skills, we're doing weight room, I got kids playing in summer leagues that we go to watch. So it's a year-round deal, and an investment in your players, in yourself. I think you have to play a role in your community and recognize that you're playing a role in your community, because I think that is one of the primary things that separates us from club soccer outside of just the pay for play scenario. And you're doing a lot to prepare people for the future. Okay. So my why, if I get down to it, my mission statement right now, if we're going to Jerry Maguire this thing, is to develop a culture of excellence and positivity, right? Positivity is something that's gone in there just in the last couple of years, as we've seen kids and social media give kids more of a chance to beat each other down than those of us who started teaching when we didn't even have computers in the school, let alone the classroom. And to teach players a lifelong passion for the beautiful game. At the same time, I want them to have individual responsibility, a team first mentality, which is a hard thing to do in our world that's driven by people whose jobs is to influence others on social media. A spirit of mental toughness and perseverance, a healthy respect and empathy for others, and a fervor for competition. Okay. And nowhere in there do I say win games. If we do all this right, we should win some games, and we should create some great people who become pretty good soccer players. I have yet, like some of my friends, to develop a professional player through high school. I mean, I've had some through ODP and other stuff, but the other day I went and saw a game, an outdoor game of 2 over 30 teams. 95% of the players on both teams had played high school soccer for me. And it was one of the coolest things ever, because I thought, okay, these guys are in their mid-30s and they still love the game and they still love to play. And if that's happening, I'm doing something that's okay, something I can live with when I look in the mirror every day. So how do we do this, and I mean, or how do I do it, I guess, is what we're looking at, and just take this and run with it and adjust it to who you are and who you want to be. One of the first things you got to do is figure out the culture of where you are when you get a job. When I went from Red Oak to Midlothian, the culture at Midlothian was much, much different. The Midlothian boys team was incredibly successful and beating everybody in district, but had more cards than every team in the district combined other than them. They had been in several fights during games. The parents were brutal from the stands. So that was the kind of stuff we really had to adjust at the beginning. You've got to analyze stuff like, is it a new program or an existing program? We had to fix problems there with an existing program. In Red Oak, I developed a new girls program from the start. What level are your players? What's your population like? Texas is a fantastic petri dish of different schools, and everything can be totally different from the top to the bottom. We got coaches who coach all high level club kids. They've got high level club kids on their JV2 team, and they're trying to figure out how to manage everybody. And we have coaches that coach kids that are in and out, who are 80% of the school or more is low SES. And they're wondering whether their kids are going to eat before practice the next day. So find a place that fits with you. Find a place that makes you happy. Find a place that you like the kind of kids that you're working with. And don't try to make those, don't try to treat them all the same, because the kids are different from school to school and place to place. And you have to decide to be the right person at the school that you're teaching and coaching at, to have some kind of longevity there. Part of that factor is what the history is of the program. Some coaches go into a program and it's a perennial playoff contender, and you're in there and you're working to win a state championship. Other coaches go into a place where you just got to figure out a way to survive the year and maybe get a win. Sometimes we're running into a new realignment year this year. So now you've got to gauge your competition and what they're like, and that can vary wildly from district to district, and figure out what the expectations are of your administration and your community. That's a biggie, guys. What does the soccer community want out of you? What does your administration want out of you? And that's something that varies wildly from district to district. And that's something you should take into account when you're looking at jobs and when you're deciding if it's a place that you want to put your roots down and stay for a long time. With our kids, if I go back to SES, it's hard to coach kids that are hungry. So I've had friends that go to Walmart or Sam's and fill their truck up with cereal and bring it to their players during the season. And I have had a lot of kids, and I'm at a very unusual place where we've got kids that, if you go through the tax rolls and look at their home, whose families are buying a home that's a 40-year-old single wide on a piece of land that the entire thing's valued at $10,000 on the tax roll. And I've got kids on the team whose property is valued at over $1 million on the tax roll. So there's a pretty wide range of kids there. And I think I've had to go through with some of the kids, especially in a school like mine that's got that big mixture of SES, and convince some of the low kids' parents to get their paperwork turned in for their free and reduced meals, because they don't want somebody to know they're getting free and reduced meals, and they're embarrassed about it. And the kids who are really poor hide that as best they can. Now, whatever facilities you got, maximize what you have. Be creative. Do what you can with them. Don't complain about what you don't have. Okay? As we move forward and we figure out every program is different, whether boys or girls, big school, small school, low SES, high SES, club kids, not club kids. Figure out what's going to make your program successful, what you as a coach feel will make it successful within the context of what the administration wants from you and what the community wants. And don't lose track of what your why is, of your philosophical mission statement for why you're doing it. Success may be winning state. I mean, at a place like Wakeland, I think Wakeland High School in Frisco is a really good example. You've got a boys team that's won state several times and been there several other times, a girls team that's won state. That's always going to be on the table for those guys. They got a lot of club players. They're sitting across the tollway from FC Dallas, and that's a great place where that's always going to be a factor. Okay, but you've got other schools where making the playoffs is a huge success, a massive success, or just winning a district game, or just keeping everybody eligible. Okay, obviously that's something we all want to do, but in some schools that's a much bigger accomplishment than others. If you got kids that are working and going to school and trying to play soccer, in some schools it's just making a positive climate, showing improvement. And even within one school, you can have years where all of these things become your successful priority. Okay. Once upon a time, we had a varsity team that was on the girls' side in Midlothian that was good enough to make the regional tournament. We didn't quite punch our ticket through to state. We've never, at Midlothian High School, never gotten a team to the state tournament. We've gotten to the regional tournament a lot. And that same year we had a team at the regional tournament. We had a JV2 team for the girls that was brutal. And we barely formed a team. We had 3 or 4 girls who couldn't run a 400 without stopping to catch their breath. So we had a varsity team trying to get to the state tournament that made it to regionals. And we had a JV2 team where our job was to keep those kids eligible to statistically, they were literally the kind of kids that have babies twice before they graduate from high school. Okay. And by the end of this season, we had a great coach there who had grown up as a volleyball player, who was Spanish speaking, was from Puerto Rico. She was not a soccer person, but she connected with the kids. And we had almost that whole team play 2 years of high school soccer. Almost all of them went on and went into cosmetology or other things that we offered their junior, senior year. They came and watched soccer games. All of them graduated from high school. None of them had kids before they graduated from high school. And you're talking about a team that 3 or 4 of those had dads who were in prison that hadn't seen their dad since they were 5 or 6 years old. That was the JV2 team, and we had a varsity team of kids that a lot of them had, most of them played club soccer. They had new cars when they turned 16. We had all that going on in the same program. So I think sometimes you got to juggle a lot of different factors and understand that because we play a role above and beyond just what happens on the field, that, to be perfectly honest, over the 4 years, I was more proud of those JV2 kids and what they did than I was the varsity kids who made it to the regional tournament, didn't really have the fortitude to push it through to state. All right. So I think as a coach, you need to be realistically optimistic. All right. I think we should look for the best in our kids, but we should be realistic about how many steps they're going to take. And one of the tough things that we got to do is we have to be looking through a microscope at what the details are for today, and at the same time looking through a telescope and thinking about our 3 and 4 year vision for the program, because you should be doing things with the freshmen and sophomores that are going to be a big benefit for them when they're seniors, and juniors be a big benefit for your whole program. So you may have multiple things, multiple different plans that you're working all at the same time with your staff and with yourself. Okay. So, every day when we're doing the business of what has to be done today, we're also looking forward and, getting ready right now for tryouts and deciding if we're going to do tryouts differently here than we have in years past, because the football schedule's moved and it's different. And we're already looking forward towards starting our middle school schedule, since we lost our middle school season completely last year. Well, one of the things we got to do day in and day out, the most important thing to do is manage the program. More high school coaches lose their jobs because of management problems than from wins or losses. Okay, it's a little bit different than football. A football coach loses 60% of his games over 2 or 3 years, he's probably gone. And for a soccer coach, that's not necessarily the case, depending upon your community. As long as you take care of your business, as long as you're careful about picking your battles, again, take care of things. Don't be the soccer coach that makes the ADs talk about how much they hate soccer coaches when they're off at AD meetings playing golf with each other. All of us are working together, not just to help ourselves in our program, but really and truly, if you've done it as long as I have, you figure out all of us are working together to make things better for all of us all the time, whether you're on the board and working as the vice president or treasurer of Tasco, or whether you are just being one of those soccer coaches that takes care of business, so that when one AD grabs about them, the other AD says, you know what, my soccer coach always takes care of everything. Okay. One of the things we got to learn, and I think it's really harder for our young coaches. And I've got a son who plays soccer in college, who wants to be a high school coach, despite me telling him he can do whatever he wants to do, is to teach young coaches and teach our players to always use caution before we open our mouths. Okay. In a world where we get to post stuff on the internet all the time and everybody's opinion seems to matter, at least to them, and you can throw it out there all over the world at a moment's notice. Again, our coaches get themselves in trouble from not managing their program and from opening their mouth and saying things that they shouldn't when they shouldn't. And I know a lot of guys that have had to change jobs for making those mistakes. So believe me, I rarely tell some of the parents what they need to hear in the way I want to tell them. I let them have their say, and then we try to gently nudge them in the right direction, when maybe what they really what I want to tell them is, you should have taken a parenting class before you were allowed to reproduce, because this is a nightmare, and I'm trying to help your kid, and all you do behind the scenes is screw things up. Well, that's the situation, but that's not what we can say to them. We've got to be gentle and move them in the right direction. And the same thing with players, and the same thing with referees. We don't have very many referees. I'm kind of terrified of how this season will look right now with the COVID situation. I've got to be the administrator at football games, and I'm waiting to see how the football numbers look and how that goes. And as a young man, I probably was harder on referees than I should have been, but I've learned over time. We can't have a game without them, and let's be careful with them. Careful with administrators and media and social media. If you want to know how to deal with the media and social media, watch Bull Durham and just practice the stuff he says, which is, hey, I'm just trying to do a good job here and improve the program. Those are the kinds of things you say to the media, and they'll never get you in trouble. Okay? Other details that we got to have when managing the program, and we got to take care of our kids. All of our decisions should be driven by what's good for the kids, and all the kids. And that's where you end up with conflicts with parents. They want decisions driven by what their kid wants. And a lot of times what's good for their kid isn't what the parents want. So taking care of the kids has to drive our decisions. That has to be the bottom, the center of the bullseye that everything else radiates from. All right. Take care of money. You got budget money, camp money, follow whatever the school policy is. Money will get you fired. Supervising facilities or not supervising facilities will get you fired. So a lot of what we do is management. It has nothing to do with coaching or managing the game. It has to do with just taking care of details. And if you take care of details, you get to stay a place for a long time if that's what you want to do. Okay? Take care of grades, take care of all the paperwork, buses and POs. If the AD secretaries and the transportation people and the campus secretaries like you, you're doing your job. Okay? That's a really silly gauge, but I kind of think that a coach who's applying for a job, if he included a letter of recommendation from the AD secretary, the transportation secretary, and the school secretary, that would tell you that was somebody you wanted to hire. Okay? And then make sure we emphasize communication. Man, in a world where we have access to communication better than any time in history, we have a lot of people who aren't very good at receiving information. So now as coaches, we have to send out information a jillion ways. Send it out on SportsU, on emails, on Twitter, on other social media that you use. I advise completely against text messaging. I know that's what the kids do, and we're phasing the kids out from doing it and telling them, no, send us a message through SportsU, send us an email. And our district's been very interesting on it because they're like, we don't want you to email, we want you to text message anybody, but we know that a parent might text message you at night at 1 o'clock if you get back from a game, and we don't really want you to do that, but we know you may have to. If we get everybody trained up to use apps like SportsU, okay, that's the one we're using this year, then hopefully we can eliminate that text messaging worry that can be a problem for all of us, okay? That's another one of those management things that'll get you in trouble. All right? When you manage your assistant coaches, you want to have high expectations and define their roles and responsibilities. I think when dealing with your kids and dealing with your assistant coaches, you need to have a what they can be mentality. I coach all the time, and I'll see somebody and they'll call me and they go, I got stuck with this guy as a JV2 coach or a JV1 coach. And he or she doesn't know anything about soccer. And that happens. That's changing. More and more of us are getting great soccer coaches who are soccer people who aren't just head coaches, but are assistant coaches. Both my JV1 coaches played for me. 4 out of my 6 middle school coaches played for me. But both my JV2 coaches are football guys, but they're dedicated coaches. They're professionals. If we get them some material, they know how to work off of it. And man, my JV2 boys coach that I've had for like almost 9 years now, just does Corver small-sided game activities with the kids and gets them all going and gets them out of lines. And strangely enough, has changed the way he does some of his football coaching because he doesn't put kids in lines as much as he used to, which I think is really interesting. So he's done a great job developing players for us. And they're a huge, huge asset for us. Make sure you communicate well with them and give them chances for downtime. Okay. I tell you what, as you observe football coaches over the years, the ones that people want to work for are the ones that find their coaches some downtime. And the ones that people don't want to work for are the ones that demand they're up there all day Saturday and all day Sunday, even if they're not doing anything. So I think we can learn a lesson from that and say, you know what, if you got a varsity game and your JV2 coaches who just finished a football season are wiped out, send them home and let them catch their breath and see their family. All right. Make sure when we manage the booster club, and I'll go through this one real quick, that we follow UIL guidelines. Our booster club is awesome. It's been a big part of our success. It's a lot of what makes high school soccer special and different from club soccer, because they handle things I just don't have time for. They'll get us organized for the homecoming parade in years that we had a homecoming parade, so not this year. They organize a chili dinner at the beginning of the year after we have tryouts, which probably won't happen this year, or a banquet that didn't happen in the spring. But most years, all that stuff is happening. And on match days, they help put flags up all over the stadium, banners of the players, of the varsity kids. They run the concessions. They help fund coaching education for us. They help, with things like Gatorade and chocolate milk after games at tournaments. And the Booster Club helps build our feeling of community that we have. I will tell you this: you will have parents who are going to bust their ass doing something. If you get them on your side, they will bust their ass helping you and helping the program. If you are controversial with them and confrontational with them, without them coming to understand you're working for the best interest of their kid, they will bust their ass to make your life miserable. And, you can have 2 or 3 confrontations with parents, and what you end up doing is recruiting a group that goes out and tries to light fires all the time for you to put out. And, I'm saying take those people who try to light the fires and figure out how to get them moving in your direction. And if you do, and they really and truly see that you're interested in helping their kids, then they aren't lighting fires, they're putting out fires that other people start. Okay, so with that, and with parents, make sure in your preseason meeting that a big component of that is you defining that why. Because once the parents know that your main plan is to make kids better, or make them better people, or grow them into adults that love to play soccer, well, then they understand that you're working in the best interest of their kids. And make sure you define all of their roles. One of the best activities we've done that just kind of happened to us at parent meetings, and especially makes a difference in junior high. I think if we keep doing it at junior high, we'll be able to stop doing it at the high school in a couple of years. Is if you have your parent meeting and you tell your parents to just play along for a minute and do what you say, and you do a little Simon Says thing, get up, get down, sit up, sit down, touch your nose, touch your ear, pat yourself on the head, rub your stomach. And then you say, okay, my assistant coach over here is also going to tell you what to do. I want you to do what I say to do, and I want you to do what he says to do. He's your Uncle Fred. And then he starts telling them to do stuff, and you start telling them to do stuff. And then you add another assistant coach and say, this is your mom, so I want you to listen to her, because she's your mom and she loves you and she raised you, and she carried you around 9 months and then took care of you after that. And then once the parents start figuring out that they can't do what 3 people are telling them to do at the same time, you can say, you know what, that's how your kids feel when they're on the field and the coach is telling them what to do, and you're yelling at them from the bleachers, telling them what to do. You just put them in a bad position. So we can talk about the parents' role that way and the players' role that way. And again, we always really hit with the parents to leave the referees alone, because a referee never says, hey, you guys in the 4th row of the bleachers, y'all are absolutely right. It's never happened in a game. In 37 varsity seasons I've coached, or 39 now, if I had in last year, nobody ever has said, hey, you in row 5 with the extra size Coke, you are right. Let me change that call. Okay. We also work with them on their game behaviors and set up your lines of communications. I still got FC Link on there, but that's Sports U for us now. All right. Manage our players. Okay. This is a management game again, and you need to build open and honest relationships with them. Make sure that you model that empathy we talked about. You've got to be empathetic with the problems that they're having. And man, if we haven't, if ever there's a need for empathy in this country, it's right now. We got a lot of people dealing with a lot of stuff, and high unemployment, and people whose family members have died, and a lot of stuff going on. So let's model empathy for our kids. Let's focus on our kids as people first and players second. Remember that you're an educator and you're a mentor. You're also a disciplinarian. And again, this is a what they can be deal. Look at players as what they can be. Middle school kids, freshmen, sophomores, figure out what they can be, and then what you're supposed to, and how you are supposed to help them get there. Okay, really, that's our job as coaches, is to manage things, make sure everybody's safe, and figure out how to grow people and as players. It's the biggest smartass one of my best players, an all-state goalkeeper who's off playing in college, was the biggest smartass on the planet as a freshman. He had a mom that wanted to be sideways with us. He missed JV 2 games playing hockey and didn't want to have to sit a game because he lied about that. And we had a chance with him and with his mom, where we could have turned them for us or we could have turned them against us. And we handled it the right way, and we turned them for us. And he was great. He was a huge factor in us making it to the regional finals one year. He's a good college player. His mom has been on the booster club. He has a younger sister. His mom's as a whirlwind in helping us. So those are opportunities if we handle them the right way. Okay. And, help them with their choices. Sometimes their choices are good, bad, or ugly, and you got to figure out which ones to help them with. We have something that we're working on right now with our kids, and it's a constant battle, even with ourselves. All of our kids are good, respectful kids for the most part, and they want to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And they're used to being in a world where if they say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, everybody likes them. Okay. The problem is, because they're nice kids and they know that works, they say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and they have stopped listening to you. So again, the coaches have to kind of fight each other to remember sometimes, but we don't let them say yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. We make them say yes, coach, because it breaks that connection, that neurophysiological connection that lets them default and nod their head and think they're not going to get in trouble by saying yes, sir, yes, ma'am. So by just saying yes, coach, and that changes those things. And like Meet the Fockers, we like to try to have a circle of trust with our kids and with our coaches. They need to trust you. Okay, they need to trust you. If I'm going to rate my career, this is where I fail. Okay, I always put the kids way, way, way above me, and put family above me, and I'm good at getting better at my craft, at going to courses and clinics. I'm good at positively engaging with social media and developing a set of friends and colleagues. I'm not as good at taking a break as I need to. I've got some friends that are coaches that do a much better job of taking vacations and running off, and I don't ever seem to ever get to that. The closest I get is when we have a Tasco clinic in Galveston, and but that's not happening this year. So I got to find a way to fix that. I've done pretty all right with making time for my family. But I need to do better with hydration and exercise, because I'm always making sure the kids got what they want when I'm on my 5th cup of coffee that day. So those are things I'm working on. One of the other big pieces of advice I can give you as a coach, if you're going to stay someplace for a long time and you're going to be happy in it, is avoid coveting. Okay, we'll go Old Testament, and if you sit around and you go, man, if I had that player, man, if I had that team, man, if I had that indoor place, if we only had as many assistant coaches as the football team has, The turf, sometimes you look at the turf or the grass on the other side and you think that it's green, and it may look green, but the reason it's green may be because the septic tank over there is leaking. And once you get to that other place, you find out it's not what you thought it was. And I've had really good friends who have left one head job for another, and as soon as they got there, they said, "What in the hell have I done? I should have never left where I was before." So make your choices carefully, and understand that the hardest thing I ever did was leave Red Oak to go to Midlothian, and it took years in Midlothian to get Midlothian moving the direction that I wanted it to move in the way that I wanted it to move that way. So this is, like I said, is kind of a longevity speech at programs. So that's my take on it. I'm not saying don't take opportunities, but make sure you gauge them very carefully, and don't just think that other coaches are successful because they have it easy, because they don't. All right. Make sure we've got a vision and culture of how we want our teams to play. We want our teams to be possession oriented. We want them to love the beautiful game. All that draws upon my background. I want little quick sharp passes because I've got, I grew up in the days where most of the professional soccer, all the professional soccer in the United States was indoors, except for the guys who were on national team contracts. It's going to be affected by what your coaching education background is and who you want your kids to be. I want our kids to pass the ball and love to play soccer and enjoy it and recognize every time they get to go on the field, it's a joy. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I've not won a state championship in Midlothian. We've been to the regional tournament, like I said, several times. But, I can go watch over 30 teams play each other who are all kids who played here. I've got 2 coaches that were assistants that have gone on to win state championships, and several that are coaching high school and several that are coaching in college. So we want to develop a passion and love of the game more than anything else, result-wise. That's the biggest result we're looking for. Good people who love the game and are passionate about it. And as far as that goes, I think we've been about as successful as we could be. This is stuff I'll just hit real quick, and y'all can look at the slideshow later. Off season, we do a lot of leadership and character work. We've used a lot of different ways to do it. The Coach Mackey 2-word stuff, our football coaches have bought into, and it's fantastic because it's a video and you don't have to teach it. And some of it is kind of football-ish, but our coach let us just spend a little bit of money out of our budget and share it with them. So that's a really good thing for us. We're incredibly fortunate that we have a super weight room coach who does a ton of prehab stuff with our guys, and with rules expanding now so you can do strength after school or before school. It's a huge opportunity for somebody who at one point we just stopped going to the weight room because our AD/football coach told me I had the weight room 2 days a week from 9:41 to 9:51. And that was my equal weight room access. Okay. And that was in the middle of the class period, not the beginning or the end. So I've kind of come full circle on that thing. That's a huge asset that a lot of us have with those facilities that they don't have for club. We use the ball as much as possible in training. I'm a player's coach. We go on the track sometimes and do some testing now. That's the only time we go to the track. Okay, that's me. It doesn't have to be you. We do rondos every single day before we even start stretching. They rondo for a few minutes to kind of get them excited and lets them visit with each other, and it lets them transition into being on the soccer field. We use the Tovo model mostly, but like I said, our JV2 coaches use primarily Corver stuff, and Todd being at Tovo would say those things are diametrically opposed, but we focus mostly on the small-sided competitive part of Corver, which gives formats that are really easy for our football coach guys who are second sport is soccer to understand and to implement. Okay, we've got some open field stuff once or twice a week, and we want our field sessions to be fun and engaging. We want to emphasize vision and decision making. Okay, we already talked about weight rooms. We do a little bit of shadow play with mannequins. Already talked about the JVs. And then we usually put them in matches when we're in season. This is just an in-season look at things. Y'all can come back and look at that. We do not do a lot of 11v11 functional training. And that's one of the things that U.S. Soccer would fail me right now on whatever course I took if I told them that. I'm done. I'm a failure. Get out of here. In the old days, the U.S. soccer instructors would try to make me cry too. Any of you guys that took your C's or B's or D's or A's back then. We want our kids to focus on excellence and positivity and love the game. So we play almost all small-sided games. We very rarely play 11v11. Okay. The other component of that is I do not have enough quality depth at every position to make 11v11 meaningful all the time. I may have to use my best player at 4 different positions in one varsity game. Okay, that's happened a lot of times. So we want our players to be very versatile. We want them to read the game, to understand time and space, and that's how we do it. And we may be making a mistake there, but it seems to work for us. Okay, we want them comfortable in a variety of positions, in a variety of systems of play. And that's part of the reason I think that a lot of them keep playing for so long as adults, is because they're comfortable at all kinds of systems and all kinds of positions, and they just love the game. Okay, it's kind of that, it's almost a street soccer mentality for us. All right, on we go. Okay. I'm going to sum up 2 or 3 slides here really quickly. Okay. With our scrimmages and our tournaments and our non-district games, we're looking at developing everybody for the varsity team. We use the whole roster. We play our senior night early in the season. We play every senior, and I'm going to have 2 or 3 kids on this team that I love, that are great kids. I'm going to tell them they're never going to play after the scrimmages and senior night unless they improve dramatically, and that they have to know that going in. But they get their chance to do that. And then once we get into district matches with the varsity, we're in the results business. Okay. And obviously in the playoffs, you'd better be in the results business. I know our why is about growing great adults who are empathetic, who love soccer and are passionate and positive. But, you know, that's the time when we lay that down and say, okay, it's all about the team getting a successful result now. All right. In the preseason, we work on individual and team development. To sum up all of our JV stuff, all of our JV teams are developmentally oriented. Okay. It's all about developing roles and developing them for the future, putting them in different positions so that they know to place, that they're comfortable playing several positions. Sometimes we drop a varsity kid down who needs some game time. We use the JV1s as the varsity reserve and the JV2s as the JV1 reserve team. We're building our varsity team with our next year's varsity team with our JV1, and we're building future varsity teams with our JV2s. Okay. With both groups, we've got a district tournament right now. We play a single round robin with the JVs, and then they have a district tournament. So we focus on results in the district tournament. Okay, that way they get one event that's really result focused, and they get to kind of get that look forward to varsity. But we spend most of the seasons trying to develop our players and make them better. Losing but learning with your JV teams is what wins varsity games later. Okay, but you've got to communicate that with your parents. Everything about our JV teams is about developing future players and developing good people. There's never any discussion for me with a JV coach about you better go win this game. You better go beat so-and-so. They're our big rival. It's a derby. The kids get enough of that from their parents and just from the community. Again, this is what's right for us. It's not necessarily what's right for you guys. Okay? Last thoughts I got, and then we'll have discussions and we'll do questions, is you should be revisiting your plan all the time, looking at your why all the time and figuring out if it needs to change a little bit. like I said, I never would have mentioned empathy a lot of years ago, but that's different now. And your successful teams have the right mix of soldiers and artists, blue collar players and white collar players. All those kids are important. We just try to improve the tools, all of their tools, as best we can. All right. So we got to, look to our past and learn what we can from the past, and keep one foot in the future and juggle all those things all of the time. Y'all got that slideshow, and I rushed through the last couple of slides, but I want us to have some discussion time. So again, like I said, that's our path and that's our road right now this year. It's not necessarily the right one. It's the right one for us right now. Okay? It's the right one for us right now. Okay? All right, Warren, how do you want to do, how do we do discussions usually?
What I'll do is I'll pull everybody in here in a second. I do have a couple of things right quick. Hey, number one, if you look in the chat area, we've got our webinar resource page where you can get a copy of this slide presentation, as well as all past presentations and all the stuff that went with them. We've also got the contact list, the webinar contact list. So please sign up on that if you haven't already done so, and then you'll get a private invite every time we host one of these things. And then last but not least, if you'll take a second to fill out the survey for future webinars, or if you know somebody's got in there, we're reaching out to some of those people right now, trying to see if we can get more people involved. As you'll find out, and that's one thing that's really stood out to me over the time that we've done these series, is that how much our high school coaches really know and how much they give in. I mean, this is a great example. I felt like I learned a lot, and I like a lot of what you had to say. And so, it'd be interesting to see if we can tap into all the talent that's out there, because I know there's plenty of it. But what I'll do right quick is I'll start pulling people in. But while I'm pulling people in, just real quick question, Tovo. I hadn't heard about Tovo.
Todd Bean is the guy that does Tovo. We've reached out to him. We're trying to get him to do a session with our virtual clinic. He runs a school in Barcelona. He is Johan Cruyff's son-in-law. Okay, he's an American. He was a college coach, and Tovo stand is an abbreviation for total football, for total voetbal, because of the Dutch background. So this is a guy who spent a ton of time with Johan Cruyff. He has an online coaching school, okay, that you can do. It's a webinar based course that some of it's live, a lot of it's recorded. Really, really outstanding. It's just a little bit less than $500, but a great course. Very, very eye-opening, and it's mostly about putting players in context and making them make decisions and getting away from traditional drills. So he's a very, very interesting character with a really interesting vision that we like right now. That's kind of what's driving us right now.
Gotcha. No, I'm looking for it. I'll look that up. In fact, I may put that in the chat. I'll look and find it right quick. But yeah, so at this point, we've opened it up to anybody. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. You can also, if you don't feel comfortable, type that in the chat area or question and answer area. But right now, everybody's got full access to everything. And I'll turn it over to our group. Remember, it sounds like math class.
Like the Zoom. It's virtual learning at school. Nobody wants to say anything.
Yeah, I know. Courtney, turn on your camera, for crying out loud.
At least we know there's some people there.
All right. Is it worth the $495 that you pay for the online classes?
Courtney, I thought that it was. I thought that it was. It gave me a lot to think about, and we went out the first year and we tried to present a lot of that stuff exactly as he does. Like you do, you take your C and you get really fired up and you go right out there and do that, or you're United Soccer Coaches, Advanced National, and you go out and you do some of that. And I've tweaked a lot of it now over the course of the years. But he's a really good communicator, and I'm not saying that we teach stuff exactly the way he does, but the way that he lays things out very carefully for the kids to learn, it's very education oriented. And his pedagogy is really well thought out. So the truth of the matter was, I thought it was better money, than and I did it a long, long time ago, $1,000 for a C, to be honest. Okay, and a C costs a lot more than that now, and it's a lot more involved than it was then. So good money, I think, and that's one of the things the Booster Club paid for that for me. Okay, and if you don't have that situation, I would have paid for it if the Booster Club couldn't. But sometimes you've got a little bit of money somewhere from camp money, and maybe the Booster Club pays $100 of it, or the AD comes up with $100 of it or $200 of it to take part of the bite off. That's ideas to try, if not this year, in the future.
Thanks.
Sure.
He says,
And I
Coach
put that-
Beard, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, Coach.
Okay, so I guess I'll take advice from everybody, but I've tried a lot of things to try to fix this. Just to kind of give a little background, so I coach at a school where I'm fortunate that our population, they love to play soccer, they play on multiple teams and all that. And so we can be competitive, but we're also just very volatile. For example, we could get 7th place, 1 year, and the next year we could win district. And it's we're 85% socioeconomic disadvantaged, and one of our issues is grades. Like last year, I think right before November, like 60 of our 70 guys were failing, and we kind of had to cancel practice, do tutorials, and we had enough to field 3 teams with 1 or 2 subs. And then as the year went on, we gained more and more players. That's one issue I'm working on and I'm improving, but the one that always keeps on coming up is the attendance, and that affects a lot of things. Just training sessions affecting playing time, and with our guys, it could be all kinds of reasons why they're missing. Some might just be taking advantage of just making an excuse. They have a medical, emergency, family emergency, work, all this. And I put a system in place. I've tried anything from, you miss practice this amount of times, and then I remove you, and then I end up having a conversation with an AP, kind of reminding me, if you do that, then you're not going to end up with any teams, kind of like a warning, like, hey, try to work with our guys more. And the best thing that I was able to put forward was a system, something like you miss a practice, and then you're going to sit out. Originally, it was a game, but that had a very negative impact. So then it turned into you sit out half a game. So it gave them that incentive to, still be part of the team. They're on the bench, and they're excited to get back in. And that's had the best improvement. But last year, which was our best for attendance, I went all the way through December, and I never had 100% attendance with my varsity group. And my JV groups, it's also pretty hard, but my varsity would have the best attendance and best grades, because they're competing with the varsity. So if y'all have any tips on how to do that, how to improve the attendance, I'll take note, and I'll definitely give it a try.
Well, I think I think you're doing the right. You said you had your best attendance last year, so you're doing the right thing. How long have you been there, Coach?
So I think this is going into my 4th. And attendance, I talked with a coach before me that left, and attendance was an issue with him also. And it's just kind of like we got to do the best we can type scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're on the right track. I think you constantly have to reevaluate what's working and what's not working. The thing that's made the biggest difference for us is if you make practice fun and you make training fun, they want to be there. The more they get to play, the more they want to be there. So, you can't change their situation at home. You can change the culture where it's fun at training and they love it and they want to be there. You can help build the players where they pressure each other to get there. You started doing tutorials, and we had to do that last year with our JV2 teams. Hell's bells. We had them in. We took every kid who was under an 80, and we stopped letting them do off season 2 days a week, and we put them in tutorials with coaches in the off season 2 days a week. So everybody else got to go play soccer, and they had to go do tutorials. If you emphasize all that and you keep working at it over the course of time, I think you'll get there. It's never going to be perfect at a place that's in the 80% of low SES, because some of the reality for those kids is they're watching their siblings, they're going to work to help pay the electric bill. And I was that kid in high school. So I get it. I paid a lot of the family bills when I was in high school. I think you're on the right track. You're empathetic, you're learning from it. You're adjusting as it goes. You just keep moving forward. And over the course of time, if it's fun and engaging and they love playing and they want to be there and they start to pressure each other a little bit, it'll get better. Bruce Reichman's on here. Bruce might have an idea, because I know Bruce has to deal with this as well in El Paso. Bruce, unmute your mic, Bruce.
Hit the little microphone. Bruce, you got it, man. You're on.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, it is a problem, the attendance, but don't jeopardize the integrity of your program by varying from your rules. If you say, hey, you miss a practice, you're sitting a half a game or a whole game or whatever, or you miss 2 practices, you're off the team. I kind of try to stick to my guns unless it's extenuating circumstances where, a family member died or this or that. We try to be empathetic with everyone, but, you can't just jeopardize your integrity or your program's integrity by letting kids or parents run all over you. Hey, I want to take my kid to Disney World during holiday practices. Hey, I'm sorry. You committed to our team and we expect a commitment. So you try to stick to your guns, but with that being said, I usually have a lot of numbers that I can afford to do that. You don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face and, start throwing kids off the team, especially good players, if you don't have numbers to back them up. And we've been pretty fortunate in El Paso.
All right, thank you.
What else we got, guys?
Nothing, Austin. I think that was a good session.
Yep.
You 3 guys right there, at least at the top of my screen. You 2 guys there at the top of my screen. Warren and Austin. I know I owe a lot of my career, my success, to the tutelage of you guys.
There's no way, man.
I'm from a football.
Crap.
I'm from a football background, and watching you guys and listening to you guys at Tosco and stuff. I've learned a lot. Learned a lot from you.
You're killing me. Hey, that's a bunch of fool, man. You are the king. Okay.
Yes,
wait,
sir.
yeah. Hold up your fingers. How many rings you got on yours? Because I have none.
I'm telling you, I was blessed with good talent, but as far as programs and stuff, you guys, have helped a lot, as well as, some of the other guys, Kevin and Alan and all those older guys, like my age guys, watching, learning, taking notes. And, again, I think the Tosco clinics have been, a great help to me. So I want to thank you guys while I have you on there.
Well, we're working really hard to try to make the virtual clinic. I think it's going to be different, obviously, but we're trying to come up with a lot of really cool options that we wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. We also just improved our agreement with United Soccer Coaches. So if you join United Soccer Coaches, when you join Tasco, you get a big discount on the price of joining United Soccer Coaches. One of the side effects that's good for us of the whole pandemic is United Soccer Coaches has produced a lot more coaching material that's available online. So if you get your United Soccer Coaches membership along with your Tasco membership, it's going to give everybody a lot of availability to access a lot more information. And it improves our organization. Anything that makes any of us better makes us all better, I think.
Oh, for sure. And I'm really excited just from the stuff that you've been talking about, Austin, as far as who you guys are looking at bringing in. I think it's going to be an incredible experience. Maybe something that we can keep going on for the future. I mean, like there's a lot of things even in the classroom that in this environment I thought, man, this may be a better way of doing some of the stuff that we never even thought of, that the comfort zone really brought something in. So I think the opportunity to have this clinic virtual may be a godsend in the end. We find something that's a new way of presenting. So I'm excited about what you guys are doing and what you're producing. And like I said, I'd like to bring everybody in and strongly encourage you to give it a go, because like I said, I know I am, and I know I'm extremely excited about what's going on. But and that kind of goes back to a lot of the things that we talk about just in this room. If you look at the faces on the screen right now, how much experience is in this one webinar right now. And you look at these people, and that's why I think between the webinars and this online, our Tasco clinic, obviously it's more fun to be with the guys and everybody and the gals and having a blast. But how much we pulled off each other till we really grow as a group. And so that's one thing that I've been really happy with so far. There's your plug, but that was really good. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
Okay. I went on last night to try to register for everything, but how do you pay for the convention? The online stuff, is it so there was that one page, you could get your Tasco membership, you could get your United States Doctor Coaches membership, and then what do you click on for the convention?
There should be an option on there for you to get all three of them.
There was it said convention only, no membership or something. I don't know. I wasn't sure what to click, so I just didn't do it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll check on it, and I'll find out by next week's webinar, and I'll try to get that information for you, because I know that as we're working through it, I mean, obviously it's brand new for everybody. And so, every little process, whether it be even this or online or whatever, we're still trying to get it right. And so there's going to be bugs and glitches, but I'll find out for you, and we'll make sure we get that clarified by next Saturday. That's really good. Hey, that was awesome. Like I said, Austin, I really enjoyed today. This was a breath of fresh air. Good to see you this morning, DJ. Glad to see you're up and you're smiling face. But that works out good. Does anybody have more questions for Austin? Like I said, this has been a good session.
That is my email over in the chat too, so y'all can email me if you got anything too.
What's in that coffee cup, Austin?
Actually, today it's coffee.
Wow, impressive.
Man, and I'm still jealous, Bruce. You're a jerk. Look at that. They had to Riodoso again.
Yes, sir. This is my weekend hideaway, man. Take care of myself.
Man.
Yeah.
Plus, I got to get up here, and there's a ton of work.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you to come up and build I need you to come up here and build my patio furniture.
You got it, man. I'm there in a heartbeat.
Master carpenter now.
Shoot, I'll be there. Like I said, you got that for sure. I'd trade that in a heartbeat. That's a fair trade.
Freddie was up here last week. I just need the rest of you guys to come up here. Maybe we ought to do Tasco up here.
Oh, yeah. No, that'd be a blast. For sure.
Nothing like the mountain air, buddy.
Yep. Oh, and then the wind in the trees.
Yeah.
And what's the temperature right now? I'll bet it's way cool too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That cold front moved through. So right now it's probably about 47 or so.
And there's snow, wasn't there? Wasn't there snow?
No, we didn't get any snow. That further up in Colorado we did, but up here in New Mexico we didn't get any.
Yeah, so spoken of pure jealousy on my part.
Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm coming.
You guys.
Yeah, no, I'm coming. After this year with football crossing into soccer, and soccer, there's no Thanksgiving, Christmas, or spring break. By the end of the sucker, I'm going to be dead.
Now you see why
time to get out
from football. Don't like that game anymore.
Got to feed the kids somehow.
This is true.
But cool. Well, as I said, I'm going to go and shut off the recording thing, but I'll do the last little plug. Make sure you sign up if you're interested in the webinar and the coaches contact list. And all this stuff's open. And if you guys take a few seconds to go and fill out the questionnaire, I'd appreciate it. With that being said, thank you very much, Austin, for your time and for all the things you've done, not only for this webinar, but for Tasco as well as the high school coach in the state of Texas. And we look forward to seeing everybody next week.